Good morning, students. So today I'll be starting a new chapter called as Control Statements in C++. This is from Unit 4, Programming in C++. So this chapter and this unit is linked to the second chapter, that is Programming in C++, where you saw the overview of C++, input-output streams in C++, and operators and expressions in C++. So this chapter is equally very much important because the concepts, the topics that are in this chapter will be implemented in the uh, later on chapters also and next year also. So you have to understand the topics that is explained in here very nicely, right? So introduction part. Control statements are used to govern the flow of control in a program. A normal C++ program is executed in sequence from one statement after another till the end of the program. So what we have seen in Unit 2, the programs were pretty much very much basics only, where the program was executed in sequential manner, like you enter the data, you process it, and then you output the results, or like you enter the data, you execute the sum of two numbers, and then you display the data. So the program flow was from one uh, program statement after the other. So now C++ it provides different types of constructs for repeating program statements over and over as long as certain condition is true. So what if suppose you have to write a program where you need to repeat the program logic again and again, such like a Fibonacci series, or say like a factorial of a number, or say like prime numbers from 150, where you have to test is number 1 prime, is number 2 prime, is number 3 prime, all the numbers from 150, right? So for such cases you need this uh, control statements or the control constructs, right? So it comes under the topic structured programming techniques. So now structured programming techniques follows top-down program development approach. I've already explained in the previous videos what is top-down approach, right? So in top-down approach, what happens is the main function acts as the top module, and then it moves on to other sub-modules. That is, the complex program is split up into smaller programs, but all the small programs or modules, though independent of each other, okay, they are all interlinked or integrated with the main function. So the main function calls those other programs, and then it executes on the other submodules from the top modules. Clear? So now, using top-down approach, the following structured programming constructs are implemented in the program. So we shall see all these four statements one at a time, okay? That is sequence, selection, repetition, and jumping. So the first one is sequence. So C++ normally, in C++ normally the program code is executed in sequence. The flow of control passes from one instruction to the next in order in which they are written. So we have already seen such programs in Unit 2. So now selection. This is called as branching, where a group of instructions are executed based on the outcome of a decision. So the outcome of a decision, that is a relational expression. We have already seen one of the selection statement construct in operators and expression. When we use the relational operators and logical operators, we use the if keyword. The if keyword tests the condition, that is the Boolean expression, uh, which is a relational operator or a logical operator, right? So the test condition evaluate to only two answers, that is true or false. So if it is true, execute that statement, or if it is false, execute the other statement. It was like that, right? So based on that, C++ provides the following types of selection structure. That is, the first one is the if statement. So this is the simplest of the selection structures. All right. So the if selection statement, it performs an action if the condition is true. Only if the condition is true, the body of the if will be executed. Okay, but if the condition is false, it will not execute the body of the if. So the program will stop there and execute the next line statement after the if test condition. Okay, so if it is also called as a single selection structure, or it is also called as decision statement, because if test a conditional expression enclosed within parentheses, which is a relational expression. So if you see the format, if within the parentheses condition, so that is a relational expression where we use a relational operator and say like two variables, or variable is compared with a constant. So we compare two variables, like if a is greater than b, right? So if a is greater than b, then the body of the if, that is, it could be a single statement, it could be a block of statement like a compound statement, it may be a formula, it may be a cout statement, okay, or it could be a cin statement also. So let's see a program based on that. Okay, a C++ program using if statement that takes a value from the user and prints the square of it unless it is more than 120. So like I said, you have to understand the program question, because based on the program question also you'll be writing down the source code. So only the program question will be given and you have to understand that. So from the first sentence you can understand that you have to use the if construct, and then you have to take a value from the user. So a value from the user, so that means user will enter from the keyboard. So for that purpose, the num variable, num, that variable uh, is declared, and print the square of it. Since you have to find the square of that number, so the formula is square is equal to num into num, right? So for that purpose we declare another variable called a square. And how do we know the data type? Because there in the question itself it is written unless it is more than 120. Since 120 is an integer number, that's why num and square, they are declared as integer type. Clear? So the the logic of the this program is it should print the square of the number, but it should not be more than 120. And if it is more than 120, the message I cannot square number appears. Right? So we have two conditions. One condition is you should enter the value which should not be more than 120, and then it will execute the formula of the square. And the other condition is if you enter more than 120 or equal to 120, the a message will appear. Okay, so that's why the program is split up into two parts, that is using the if test condition. So you can see in the main function body, two variables are declared, num and square. Okay, so the cout statement execute the sequence character, that is escape sequence character, that's slash n. Okay, which will which will move on to the cursor to the next line twice, and then cout, a prompt is given, what number do you want to see the square of, ended by a semicolon, right? So from the keyboard the cboot stream will accept that, and using the uh, extraction operator, that value will be stored in the variable num. Now after that, what do you do? After you enter the value, you have to compare to the program logic, right? So that's why using the if keyword, if you enter the number less than 120, suppose you enter 90, so 90 is less than 120, right? Then as per the question given, you will execute the formula square is equal to num into num, and then display the value square. Now if that condition is true, the if condition, that is if num is greater than equal to 120, will not be executed. It will move on to the next line statement, that is return 0. However, if the first condition is false, if the first relational expression is false, that is num is less than 120, if suppose num is equal to 120 or greater than 120, then it will not execute that formula square equal to num into num. It will move on to the second if construct, that is if num is greater than equal to 120, and display the C output stream, that is square is not allowed for number over 120. Yeah, so you can see that using if statement, okay, the length of the program also increases. So because you have two program logic to execute, that's why in the first if construct can execute only one statement. So you need another if test condition so that it will display the second sentence, that is the message I cannot square, that part of the sentence. Clear? Now, else statement. So if the condition of the test expression is true, body of the if will be executed. Otherwise, the body of the else will be executed. As you can see in the format, the if test condition has, if it is true, within the opening and closing braces, you can see that one statement will be executed. However, if it is false, the else also has a body of statement to be executed. It may be a single statement or it may be a block of statement. So based on the example, if you can see, if A is greater than B, so A is greater than B is a relational expression, right? So it compares the value of the two variables, that is A and B. So if A value will be greater than B, see out A is greater than B will be printed out. However, if the value of A is smaller than B, then else the else will execute the see out B is greater than A. Okay, so this gives you an alternative answer if the test condition turns out to be false. Okay. Now, nested if statement. So it tests multiple conditions by placing if-else selection structure inside if-else selection structure till three levels. So if you see the format, okay, the else if is written within the if test condition body. So if the else if condition also turns out to be false, okay, till three levels. So within the if block, else if can be tested three times. Then if this condition also turns out to be false, there should be an else block that will be executed. Okay, if all the if conditions turns out to be false, there must be an else block that has to be executed. So that will be the final outcome. So based on that, okay, let's see a program. So the program is to find the greatest among three numbers. So since we have to find the greatest among three numbers, so we need to accept three values. For that, we declare three variables, that is int, fn, sn, tn. As you can see, I've used the single line command to declare three different variables, right? So this is useful for the programmers to understand where the variables are declared, what type of variables are declared. Clear? So so after the variables are declared, the next step is to enter the value. So that's why the cout prompt is given. What is the first number, what is the second number, what is the third number, and that value from the keyboard is stored in fn, sn, and tn. Then after that, using the if keyword, we compare the three values, the first value with the second value and the first value with the third value, so that, okay, if it turns out to be true, it will execute the if body, that is cout. The bigger value is fn. You can see in the if test condition that we are using the logical AND operator. So the logical AND operator will compare the relational expression fn is greater than sn and fn is greater than tn. Both the expressions must be true. Only then cout will display fn is bigger value, right? But if suppose fn is greater than sn and fn is not greater than tn, suppose fn is 7, sn is 6, and then in the and tn is 8, so that will be fn is greater than tn is false. So it will move on to the else if, and the comparison will be again made with the second number with the third number and second number with the first number. If that is true, then the bigger value is Sn will be printed out. However, if that also is false, okay, the last block will be executed, that is the else, the bigger value is Tn. Since in the else, since in the if test expression and else if, okay, the first two numbers were compared with all the uh, third variable and second variable, okay, so the last else option will be executed. So that will be the final value that will be displayed. Okay, so type this program, okay, type this program and then run this program. Okay, um, You can use the cascading operators also to shorten the program, like see out what is the first number, like that, right? See out what are the three numbers, and then using the cascading operators you can also use in c in, okay, fn, sn, tn, like that. So make some changes in this program, type those two programs, okay, and check the output that you are getting. Okay, so that will be all for today.